What's happening, fandoms?
Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here,
we react to music videos and shows.
Today we're going back to New Rockstars and Eric Voss breaking down all the little details out of Secret Invasion episode 5. We are one episode away from the finale of this single season show of spies and intrigue and none of us knowing who the hell anybody is because everybody's a Skrull.
So confusing. I'm still confused.
So I'm hoping that Eric sees something that can give us a little bit of a clue. He usually does. Let's see what he's got today.
But still confused.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Secret Invasion Episode 5, Harvest, in which, that guy from Black Widow returns her cameo, and yet again some creeps in the MCU are trying to steal a female Marvel hero's blood. Let's break down this episode for all the Easter eggs and details that you might have missed. And a quick note here, SAG-AFTRA has informed us that entertainment journalists like us are allowed to review and analyze movies and TV during the strike. So this breakdown is not paid promotional work. We support SAG and the WGA in their strikes, and our mission with these breakdowns is to celebrate the creative work of the hardworking artists who made this, and not like high-five Disney for using AI in the intro. Boo.
Right.
Okay, in the opening segment of the episode, I just noticed it for this episode, but while every episode opens with a toned-down version of the Marvel Studios title card, one word that always leaps out from a past MCU quote is secret, from Bruce Banner's line in the 2012 Avengers film, "That's my secret, Captain, I'm always angry." I just think it's kind of cool that this word is particularly highlighted for the series, because, it's about secrets. Invasions. After his assassination attempt in episode 4, President Ritson gets rushed into a British hospital with way fewer medical personnel and security than one would expect for the President of the United States showing up anywhere. Like, the series was shot from September 2021 through spring of 2022, so, maybe it's a small cast size due to COVID concerns, but I really am just comparing it to the West Wing episode when Bartlett gets rolled into the ER, and there's like a dozen doctors and nurses waiting for him. On the TV, UKN News shows a shot of Gravik helping Talos moments before he kills him, as a reporter says shape-shifting aliens helped the president. This could be the public's first step in forgiving the Skrulls once this is all over. Like, think about it, a Skrull helping the president? Here, now Talos is on the record in his Skrull skin rescuing a U.S. president.
They didn't say he helped him.
Pivotal legacy. Fury tries to tell Ritson not to trust Rhodey and that it wasn't the Russians, but since Rhodey fired Fury in episode 2, he no longer has security clearance. So Fury just has to stand guard with a gun, kind of like Michael Corleone sitting in front of his father's hospital room in The Godfather. So back on the Skrull base, Beto and Pagan arrive, and joining them is that Skrull woman who thanked Gravik when he returned from the Skrull Council in episode 2. Beto watches Gravik for a bit, already the seeds of mutiny being planted in the Skrull recruit. I assume he's been pretty disillusioned, as he was sort of set up on that submarine alongside Pagan. And Pagan says,
"You should be proud, G."
Yeah, this is the second time that Pagan is using an Earth/English consonant of G when Skrulls have an entirely different alphabet to produce the sound of Gravik. So it sounds like Pagan has just gotten a little too used to his human skin. And yeah, he's definitely also bitter at Gravik for setting him up on that submarine just to out Gaia, and so Pagan challenges Gravik here.
"You told me Fury hid the Avengers DNA, but it wasn't in any of the locations you provided."
Yes, so Pagan is hinting at the Harvest, the title of this episode, mentioned earlier this season, in which Fury reveals that he sent a team of Skrulls, led by Gravik, into the aftermath of the Battle of Earth and Avengers Endgame to harvest Avenger blood that had been spilled in the battle. This gives some new context to Nick Fury standing on Tony Stark's porch far away from the other Avengers during the funeral in Endgame. Like, we now know what he was really doing there. While Carol Danvers' DNA in particular is a sample of focus, perhaps because she's considered the, or at least one of the most powerful Avengers, and she's got the next movie coming out. Let's remember, Avengers also present in that battle were Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor, Bruce Banner, Clint Barton, Wanda Maximoff, Peter Parker, Doctor Strange, Wong, T'Challa, Shuri, Okoye, Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, Valkyrie, Bucky Barnes, and of course Sam Wilson in the Guardians of the Galaxy. They were all there. And so was boom, you looking for this Rhodey, because this aftermath could have been when Rhodey was snatched and replaced by Skrulls, which would mean those tears with Happy Hogan on the dock were fake. And remember, in that Endgame scene at the end of the movie when Hulk was in the sling prepping Steve Rogers for his Stone return mission, there was a helicopter flying away from the battlefield. That could have been the Skrulls in this Harvest mission. And yes, stealing Avengers blood has been something that's come up again and again. It seemed to be the plot by the Intelligentsia and She-Hulk. In the 2008 Hulk movie, they were trying to get blood there. And Steve Rogers' blood was a major plot point in season 1 of Agent Carter. 12 vials of Steve's blood were taken after the assassination of Erskine, because his blood is the only thing still containing the super soldier serum at that point. The US government kept 11 of those vials, but Howard Stark kept one of them, but it was stolen. So Stark had Peggy Carter go steal it back for him and lied to her about what it contained, and then when she found out what was inside, she herself hid it. Eventually, Peggy pours that blood in the water from the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, this Battle of Earth also would have been when the DNA of Groot was taken, which Gravik uses here. Yikes! Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell due to the lighting and the framing, but Gravik totally impales Pagan using his Groot arm through the heart. And Gravik afterwards doesn't exactly inspire loyalty here.
Pagan thought he had a voice, but none of you do. You're faceless, and you're nameless.
Yeah, Gravik may be trying to appeal to a Skrull mindset of living in the shadows, brave, faceless warriors and all that, but this is from the same prick who just choreographed these operators to shapeshift into his appearance in that museum cafe in episode 3. Meanwhile, sending a unit of Skrulls to Vara's house just to kill her, and if he knew where she lived, presumably he'd know she'd have a whole freaking arsenal tucked away in that greenhouse basement. Just does not seem like a valuable use of Skrull company resources. But I think Gravik senses division in his ranks, and that's why he sends so many of them off, because he changes plans here to tell Rava, aka Scrody, to show President Ritson satellite photos of new Skrulls so that the president will bomb it, sacrificing any Skrulls in the space to incite World War III because it's a bomb on Russian soil from the Americans. Since this is all a big global chess game, Gravik is willing to sacrifice all of his pieces on the board, but think about it, in chess, once it gets down to just too few pieces, it ends up being a draw inevitably. So you really have to keep enough of your pieces on the board, and I don't think Gravik understands that. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Rava says,
"Where's the president? Damn people just giving out classified information. Lock this whole place down right now."
Again, asshole Scrody. The real James Rhodes would never talk to people like this. Rhodey is a world-famous Avenger, and this nurse might have been briefed on what faces to let through, but clearly Rava is just using this as an excuse to clear the floor. Fury gets a drop on Rava, and director Ali Salim stays in a single long take where Sam Jackson and Don Cheadle just growl at each other, and it's pretty great. Now, Fury says to Scrody's bodyguard, "Do something, I dare you," and this has to be another Pulp Fiction reference to when Jules says,
"Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time."
And this poor security guard in the sling, remember this was from when Fury broke his arm in episode 2. He is right there hearing Fury call Rhodey a Skrull. I don't think this guard is a Skrull too, because I don't think Fury would have been able to break his arm. I guess the idea is that Fury's just whispering, or maybe he's just so unhinged that Rhodey doesn't think his bodyguard would believe him. From behind his armed guards, Rava says,
"I'm gonna make sure you get the whole show."
Yeah, Don Cheadle's definitely playing this with more of a feminine energy, and I just like his slightly tweaked acting choices. Why did they let Fury go here? Seems like Rava is keeping Fury alive so that they can use him to find the Avengers' DNA, so that he can bring this harvest to Gravik. In London, Sonny Falsworth visits SIS director Weatherby, whom we saw back in episode 3 as the leak Falsworth was worried about when she was fixing that owl clock. We also briefly saw Weathersby and Falsworth chatting in episode 1 from Fury's bug recording in Falsworth's office. Weatherby is played by Tony Curran, who played Vincent Van Gogh in an episode of Doctor Who. On his screen is CUV News, a fictional outlet in the MCU that appeared on the screens in Sword HQ and WandaVision. This report continues talking about Talos' involvement in the Ritson attack. Falsworth demands to know where Dr. Rosa Dalton is.
That doesn't mean
Director
he
Weatherby
helped.
in the leg and through his hand to prove that it will revert to green.
Just showing Director Weatherby's true colours.
And by true colors, I assume she's referring to those burnt orange socks he's wearing, because damn, they match the drapes of Tony Curran perfectly. Okay, so once again, Gravik plops a bunch of sugar cubes into his tea. At this point, it kind of seems like just a character choice by Kingsley Ben-Adir, but his
doesn't drink it.
One human vice he's allowed himself. Beto leads a mutiny on Gravik. First a sledgehammer to the back, followed by a bag over the head. Now, Gravik does have extremist healing powers, so shooting him might just be out of the question, but still, you gotta imagine it would at least slow him down. Really just seems like they're trying to just quickly cut off his oxygen supply and disorient him. Yes, this is like the assassination of Julius Caesar led by Brutus, but unsuccessful. With the plastic bag over the head, it does feel like more of a mob hit. It's pretty sloppy. But this is the first time we've seen adult Gravik in Skrull form, and it's the most violent we've ever seen him. Even the little detail of the purple blood on the inside of the bag, just from him coughing up a bit of blood from the hit. He stabs Xerxu in the throat. Remember Xerxu, he was the third member of that submarine team. He uses a Groot arm to punch Beto. I also like the detail that the Skrulls have a jukebox, reminding us of how the Skrulls had these kind of devices and tchotchkes on their space station in Captain Marvel, and Skrulls definitely just seem to be into human music. Gravik slashes Beto's throat to send a message to the others. R.I.P. Beto. Okay, as Fury approaches his Brixton flat, more purple and green lighting on the street. As Fury approaches this building, Fury finds a door taped broken, and Gaia greets him inside. This is the same Brixton Community Center that we saw in episode 2. Fury explains that after the German bombings in World War II, Brixton became something of a haven for immigrants from the West Indies. Now, these immigrants were referred to as the Windrush generation, named for the HMT Empire Windrush that brought numbers of Caribbean immigrants to Great Britain in 1948. And as I talked about in past breakdowns, the history from there just got really, really complicated with members of the London police who were protested against for their stop and frisk policies. Gaia and Fury talk about Talos' death, and there definitely seems to have been a deleted scene or something changed after the reshoots, because back in the April trailer, we saw a shot of Gaia crying over Talos' body on the road, showing the moment Gaia found her father and suggesting that she might have actually been present at this attack in some version of the scene. Gaia leaves Fury by saying,
but that didn't happen in the show.
Yeah, I feel like part of Fury's planned attack on Gravik might be to use Gaia to masquerade as him, and that the Fury we've seen in trailer footage fighting with Gravik in the Super Skrull machine might actually be be Gaia, because she does have some of the Super Skrull powers that would make more sense to me. I just don't see why Fury would think he alone could take Gravik on one-on-one. Okay, so Sonya greets the Daltons.
This was such a
And then
good
she lets them
scene.
know that she can be anything they want her to be.
It's really just a matter of taste. Cake or death.
Yes, cake or death, referring to a punchline from a bit from Susie Izzard, who uses stage name Eddie Izzard, about a hypothetical Church of England Spanish Inquisition.
You, cake or death? Death, please. No, cake, sorry, cake. You said death first? Death first. No, I meant cake. Oh, all right. You're lucky I'm Church of England.
Falsworth snoops on their Super Skrull research and asks about the blueprints to the machine, and it's got some Skrull writing on the left side. Now, using some online Skrull alphabets that may or may not be accurate, it seems like these letters are K-A-U-S-H-B-A-R-T, and then either a lowercase e or u, and then on the lower left column, that looks like A-F-A-N. So yeah, it kind of just seems like gibberish added by a prop maker, but we always try to translate these just in case they end up being something. So Victor threatens Rosa so that Falsworth won't be able to attack Gravik, and Gravik just shoots him in the head, spraying some purple blood on Rosa. So Scrody shows Risen satellite photos and says that the Skrulls are working with the Russians and proposes a strike on Russian soil, which would result in World War III. And Rava says,
We have to cut this thing off at the head. And now?
Yeah, cut it off by the head. That seems like a Hydra reference there. We know what happens when you cut off one head, and just bombing this site would definitely leave humanity exposed to all the Skrulls inheriting the Earth. So Fury rolls up to a private plane set up by Rick Mason, O.T. Fegbenley's character from Black Widow. Not an MCU cameo I ever expected to see again. Mason, remember, was Natasha's off-the-books travel liaison. He hooked her up with transit and fake passports, and many thought a previous version of that film planned for him to be Taskmaster, not Taskmaster to be the character of Antonio Dreykov. Fury says,
Feel a lot better if we were on the helicarrier.
Yeah, that's been mothballed. A little bit like you should be.
Yeah, for Mason to know about the current status of helicarriers, like the one Fury's crew used to save the Sokovians in Avengers Age of Ultron, suggests that he was probably part of Fury's network for a while now. So why bring back Rick Mason? I don't know. It kind of seems like the MCU just doesn't want us to forget about Black Widow characters. As Dreykov was referenced back in episode 3, Rick Mason comes back here, and yes, Yelena Belova and Red Guardian are returning for the Thunderbolts. So I guess this makes it likelier that Rick Mason might show up in that as well. So Vara arranges Talos' funeral, laying his corpse on a ceremonial pyre. The ritual requires an offering, which Gaia supplies as Soren's wedding ring. So just another example of a Skrull married couple really considering wedding bands that important. Vara speaks the Skrull language.
As a prayer.
Yes, this is similar to the pronunciation used by Gravik when he was speaking in the Skrull language back in episode 2 to the Skrull Council. We were trying to figure out what linguists they used to invent the sound of the Skrull spoken language. Looks like some language experts named Joseph Ryan and Ryan Hurd created the Skrull dialect for the 2019 Captain Marvel film, when the language was then known as Torfin, after the planet Torfa.
Stay back!
And to get that language, they used a mix of, according to them, Japanese and Turkish. And Turkish might be why you hear so much of the sh sound, and in the back of the throat, k. It does sound a bit Dothraki, but maybe that's just because this is Emilia Clarke speaking it. Clarke did have a lot of experience speaking these fictional languages on Game of Thrones, Dothraki and High Valyrian, dialects conceived by linguist David J. Peterson. In Vara's prayer, though, I definitely made out that it ends in the word Skrullos, which is the Skrull home planet that's been destroyed. So basically, the prayer is probably to send you back to some spiritual realm version of Skrullos. And I thought I also heard the word Genosha in there. Genosha or Genosha is the name of the mutant island nation in the X-Men comics. And many of us are theorizing that the corpse of Tiamat might become the MCU's version of Genosha. We'll see. Vara says,
The last thing I said to Fury before the snap was if you keep spending all your time chasing aliens, you might lose the one you married.
Yes, it's so satisfying to hear someone say the snap and not the blip, because I just think the snap is a much better name for what happened. And the hours before the snap, Fury would have been dealing with the fallout of the arrival of Thanos' Black Order in New York City, Cull Obsidian and Ebony Maw and their Q-ship. Since it is Cull's severed hand that's now coming back into the series, maybe Fury and Maria Hill were trying to secure that in the park and trying to find an evidence bag big enough for it. Vara tells Gaia that she first saw this house in a viewing 15 years prior. So just giving us a sense of the timeline here, this would be before she and Fury met in Paris following the events of the Battle of New York in 2012. Gaia insults Vara by asking if Fury ever likes seeing her in her own skin, and Vara takes offense, which seems like a bit of commentary on how immigrant spouses sometimes have to erase parts of their identity when they want to try to assimilate into American marriage. But Gaia comes from a younger, more progressive generation that feels like you shouldn't have to do that. But Vara has a different mindset that marriage should be more of a compromise, so you do have to let go parts of yourself. I really like that they had this conversation. I wish that more of this came up throughout the series, but I get it, 6 episodes, there's not always time time to delve into all of it. As they talk, that bullet hole is still in the mask on the wall from their coffee table duel last episode. Yeah, you know, marriage, sometimes you just gotta shoot just to the right of each other's heads just to never go to bed angry. But now even more bullets fly through this house. That green tea set shatters, meaning the Skrull assassin, who likely had a clean shot through these vast windows, completely biffed it. But Vara did mention lots of privacy, lots of security, lots of light. Maybe the windows have a secret refraction effect that threw off the aim. So they retreat into a basement greenhouse lab that I guess Vara has been working in. Last episode we saw a framed publication about Priscilla Davis's work with genetics, so this might be Vara experimenting on Skrull plants to see how they adapt to Earth, like what Soren had been doing with the Stanton Milica. Vara and Gaia suit up with these go-bag backpacks and almost in an instant strap up in these bulletproof vests with gun holsters, and they gun down all the assailants. These assailants, not good at their job. Don't recruit these guys to be on your Call of Duty team. So Fury uses the disguise of a Finnish man who looks a lot like Donald Sutherland to go through customs, and we see how the customs agent has his Finnish wanted report that translates to Red Notice. That's what Rick Mason was referring to from Interpol. Then underneath that, this page is reserved for official observation, and then some biostats about Nick Fury. You can also make out the word Laji, L-A-J-I, which means species, which is pretty odd for Interpol to track, but it shows that they're already trying to keep track of who's a human, who's a Skrull. We also see Fury's hometown of Huntsville, Alabama. And then we see the name on the fake passport is Johan Kurhonen. Kurhonen, especially spelled with an O instead of an E. It's a very common Finnish surname. So Fury reveals that he was using a wig and a widow's veil that we've seen Black Widow use in Captain America Winter Soldier. Sharon Carter used one of these in the Falcon Winter Soldier.
He also talked
6,
about a
and these
newer
were used
version
several times in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Falsworth says,
$1 billion of research and development, and all the widow's veil can cloak is your face. What about the rest of you?
That's the newer version, not this one.
Interesting. So is Fury working on a full body version of these cloaks, something that might be based on Skrull DNA technology? We know that the Skrulls have shape-shifting clothes as well. So is our man harvesting the harvesters? And when Sonya and Fury drive off, she puts on Audacity by Storm Z featuring Heedy One. Storm Z is a Ghanaian English rapper from London, and this song features a thematically appropriate lyric, wolf in sheep's skin telling me lies. So Fury and Falsworth drive in remote Finland, 294 kilometers from the Russian border. He informs her that Rhodey is a Skrull and that Gravik wants the harvest, and finally telling us what happened there.
Nearly every Avenger spilled blood in the Battle of Earth, even Carol Danvers. In the aftermath, some were sent in to collect that DNA, some with the ability to blend in. Nobody knew about them but me and the collectors, led by
Gravik.
Yeah, Fury singles out Carol Danvers. I don't remember seeing Carol bleed during this fight, even after Thanos headbutts her, but he does shortly after punch her off screen with a Power Stone, so maybe there was some significant bloodletting from that. Practically, I just don't really know how any Skrull CSI team after the fact could walk into an open acre of rubble and know where to look for blood and whose blood would be whose. That said, Carol Danvers' blood would get off a unique radiation signal since her powers came from her body and her blood being blasted by cosmic radiation from the Tesseract-powered Lightspeed engine. That's why I think Fury is worried about Carol and not, say, Wanda Maximoff, because Wanda's power set comes in part from a dark magic curse from Chthon, something that might not live on in her blood after it leaves her body. But Carol's blood might give the Skrulls cosmic radiation, the ability to go binary and Dragon Ball through whatever you wanted. Also important to note that this may be the first time in the MCU a character is actually out loud referred to it as the Battle of Earth as opposed to just Thanos or the Blip. Falsworth says,
Scandinavian cemetery. Should have brought my scythe.
Yeah, Sony is referencing The Seventh Seal, the 50s Swedish film directed by Ingmar Bergman, in which Max von Sydow plays a medieval knight in a chess match with death. Again, chess coming back as a motif on this series. Fury's gravestone reads, Colonel Nicholas J. Fury, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. This is from the New Testament, John 15:13. It's what Jesus said to his disciples before his crucifixion. It's specifically referencing the highest form of love, God's love. Love that isn't what God does, but who God is. A willingness to sacrifice oneself for one's friends. It's a fitting quote, considering this is where Sonya asks Fury why he hasn't called in any of your special friends, aka the Avengers. And Fury explains that this is a personal responsibility, not the responsibility of the Avengers. And yeah, he may be planning to sacrifice himself in the finale to prevent his friends from getting Skrull captured. Fury says,
if that ain't enough, maybe I am just dust.
Yeah, it's a reference to him literally dusting in Infinity War. Falsworth asks about his fake graves.
Oh, I got these all over the place. You know, dead men need options.
Yeah, this guy has more tombstones than the frozen pizza aisle. Fury's other fake tombstone that we see in Captain America Winter Soldier bears the Bible verse Ezekiel 25:17, which is of course a reference to his character in Pulp Fiction and the line he repeats to everyone before he kills them. So there we had an Old Testament verse about God's wrath and his vengeance, and now we got a New Testament verse about God's love for humanity. And we see how Fury's headstone is activated specifically by his breath, reminding me of the Fifth Element when they had to blow on one of their 4 totems to activate it, or in National Treasure when they breathe on the lemon juice to reveal the map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. that here the treasure is a Felix Felicis vial containing what we assume is Carol Danvers' blood serum. Why is it clear and not red? Maybe the active DNA strand that they're using is in a special solution for cosmic radiated blood. I don't really know. Inside the mausoleum, Fury uses an eye scanner to open up a tomb, get a new jacket, a new eye patch, and a gun. And on these hatches are Nordic runes. The first one he opens translates to this word, which according to Google Translate is bad mother's heart, at least for my Icelandic, which might be a reference to Sam Jackson being one bad mother famously written on his wallet in Pulp Fiction. And we couldn't translate everything underneath as the close-up cuts off the bottom words, but it starts with this or that looks like a victory, and the last word might be this or opening. Also on the hatch is this animal that lights up that looks like a wolf or a fox, which might be a reference to Fury's comic book origin as a member of the Howling Commandos. Sonia Falsworth shares her name with James Montgomery Falsworth, also a member of the Commandos. In Finnish folklore, and I guess in most folklore, foxes are believed to be cunning and extremely hard to catch, and there are stories in Finnish folklore of the fire fox, a unique mythical creature that, if caught, will bring wealth and status to the hunter. Also, the Finnish word for northern lights literally means fox's fire, as the story said that when the fire fox runs fast, it brings light to the sky. And Fury's final line of this episode is,
"It's time. Let's
I wonder
finish
who is he
this."
talking
appropriate
to.
that he's in Finland because I'm sure he is feeling very Finnish right now. Aha. So we'll see what significance this eye patch brings.
Bad
Either
joke.
it's going to equip Fury with some additional power to give him a leg up against Gravik, or the Fury in the trailers that's been fighting Gravik in that base will actually be Gaia, and there will be two Furies in this fight. Hey, a huge thanks to Noah Chin, Eric Francisco, Gina Polito, and Jordan Morris for their big help in writing this breakdown. So programming note here, there's going to be no episode of Inside Marvel this week on the break room. Some of our hosts are figuring out how best to support the striking union workers and wanted to take a break this week. So please subscribe to New Rockstars, The Break Room, and The Deep Dive for analysis of the titles you love and the deeper reasons why the artists who make them need to be supported. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I like that he addressed the strike for the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA. It is a little unclear how channels like theirs and channels like ours are supposed to deal with these properties, but they haven't requested that there be a consumer strike. So we're going to continue forward as usual. And I like that he does address it, though. I did have a little bit of a problem with one of the things he said. He seemed to think that the media was reporting that Talos was helping the president, but what the media reported was that
The opposite.
Skrulls were involved in the ambush.
Right.
So it's literally the opposite of what he said. The media was saying Skrulls killed the president, basically, or tried to. But I do really enjoy all of the translation stuff, especially the ancient Nordic.
Right.
Like, who knew that they would actually have those things be words and real? The attention to detail that they put into these shows is ridiculous, and then they come in and reveal it all for us.
Right.
I'm a little disappointed that the Skrullos letters that they translated weren't anything. Maybe there's a different way to translate them, or a different order they were supposed to be in, or they're a code or
Maybe
something.
the writers on strike.
Well, this is from a long time ago.
I know.
But I did very much enjoy the little breakdown of the different like Skrull relationships and how those things juxtaposed a little bit with, you know, Soren and Talos and their wedding ring, and Fury and Priscilla and how their relationship kind of worked.
They wove in together the kind of relationship.
Yeah, kind of. And then with Priscilla and Gaia teaming up, it's kind of like
It gives you that sort of like a closure that they're teaming up together.
Yeah, kind of. It's interesting. Some people are suggesting that Gravik is actually Soren, and I don't know if I buy that.
We'll see.
I'm not sure. Eric didn't say it, but I've seen some other stuff that suggests that it's Soren, and then Soren's angry at Nick Fury and for betraying.
Who knows?
I don't know. Tough to say.
Well, we know that he's angry. Sure.
Oh yeah, Gravik's angry for sure.
Yeah.
But I didn't recognize that pilot guy as being from the previous Widow movie. I did see that movie. I just didn't recognize him, so that was cool to understand the reference. And we got the Marvels trailer that we're gonna watch. That's coming up soon. And it's very likely that we'll see at least one member of the Marvels show up in the last episode of this, because it's so tied together. Carol Danvers might show up here. I don't know.
Who knows?
We'll see.
Well, thank you again for tuning into our channel. Don't forget to give you love and support to New Rockstars. Our link will be in our description below. Thank you for your love and support to our channel. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you for loving our new channel and liking our... Oh, this is our old channel. Loving our show channel and liking our videos to get the algorithm going. Thank you for subscribing to our Small Mighty channel to help us grow 30K. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.